So this is part 4.4. This is LIFO for Chapter 6 inventory. And today we're going to cover last in, first out of inventory counting. So LIFO works backwards. If you think about jelly beans, right? If you were to receive 4 different inventory loads, like let's say each load was maybe a pound, pound and a half, right? If you were to take a bunch of bulk item and pour it on a table, for instance, if you go to a diner and you pour sugar on a table, eventually the sugar, as it continues to add more on the table, the sugar granules will actually start to develop like a pyramid idea. So let's see if I can move this closer to you. So for LIFO specifically, imagine us pouring out the first bag. So the first purchase order is going to be the one that sits on the table, right? So here would be PO1, and then if you were to add in PO2, would stack on top of it in that container, PO3 and PO4. Now, one of the problems is when we're dealing with bulk inventory, it's very difficult to tell the difference between which levels, which I guess you can call them labels, which levels of the inventory would show up. So there's not a dividing factor to say, hey, you're touching into PO1 or PO2, right? It's like if you continue to add the same flavor jelly beans in the jelly bean container, they're just going to continue to add, and you're going to see a higher amount of jelly beans in that container. So it's really hard to tell which PO it came from. But LIFO, because it's last in, first out, basically means that your last PO is probably going to be somewhere at the top. And for any bulk item, right, we're not supposed to use our hands, so we use a scooper. So the scooper will scoop right off the top into the bag. So if we were to look at LIFO specifically, the question is what is the value of 5 units, 5 units at the end of the, what is the value of 5 units at the end of the month, right? So in order to find that, we have to go ahead and do LIFO. So we have a grand total of 10 units, right? So PO1 had 1 unit, PO2 had 2 units, PO3 had 3, and PO4 had 4 units, is the quantity specifically. And each price, as you could tell, is different. So what happens is on most products, when we go to purchase items, every PO shouldn't be the same price unless they streamlined it for the pricing strategy, or that's part of your contract specifically. So because we got to find a total of 5, let me choose a different marker here. I'll use red. Okay, I'm just going to back it up so you guys could see a little bit better. All right, here we go. We're going to focus in. So bear with me here. All right, so 5 units, right? So because we start from the top and we're removing the next scooper, here, I'll just move it closer, right? So here we go. We're going to go LIFO. So if we know that we have 5 units left on hand, because that is what the question says, that we have 5 units left on hand, we know that the first unit is going to be a grand total of 10. So the last PO that we're going to start off with, we start from the bottom. So can we say that we have sold through 4? Yes. Why? Because 10 is bigger than 5. So we have to deplete. So LIFO is starting with last in, first out. So the last PO is what's gone. So here we go. So 4 is gone. So 10 minus 4. 10 minus 4 is going to be 6 units, right? You can easily count that by saying here's 3, 2, and 1 makes 6, so therefore we're still on the same correct path. Next, is 6 bigger than 5? Yes. So can we go ahead and say that we must have used all of 3? Well, that depends, right? Because in this theory, the last in, first out is going to be where we work from the bottom. So let's see if we can add to find where 5 units would possibly be, right? So we're going to start, because in theory, the very first PO in bulk should still be here because it's what's on the bottom. So yes, in theory, 1 still exists. Cool. 1 plus 2 makes 3. That must still exist, right? Because we have a total of 5 units left on hand. So the problem is somewhere here. It's in 3, right? So we know that we have 1, we have 2, which makes 3. So what's 3 minus 2 would be 5. So in this case, for the math, right, we didn't use all of 3. We only used 1. So 2 would be left on hand. So this 3 gets crossed out, 2 comes up here. Why? Because 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And that answers that we have 5 units. I'm going to back this up so we could do the math. So here we go. So the math that we're going to look at today is what is the value? Now, if you notice that each one of these units has a different price value, it's going to be different. So we can easily say that the $1 still exists, the $4 still exists because 2 and 2 is 4. However, 2 times 3 is now going to be 6. Instead of 9, it's going to be switched to 6. Okay, so the math is going to look like this. Okay, $6, 6 plus 4 plus 1, right, is going to be a grand total of the value $11. So $11 is worth of the inventory. And that's what we hope to see, $11 for the inventory, right? Next, what is the cost of goods sold? So what we were talking about last time was the original cost of goods sold, and I'll still do it orange so you can see it. So in theory, if we were to purchase 10 units of this item, and we were to sell through the entire 10 units, the cost of goods sold would have been $30. Okay, because remember, this is original COGS. So now we have to figure out the $5 or the 5 units, the value of the cost of goods sold for the 5 units. So we're gonna take $30 because that's what we originally expected. 30 minus the $11 because that's what's left in inventory. Oops, sorry. 30 minus 11 is going to give us what? 19. So our total cost of goods sold is going to be $19 instead of the 30 because we have now subtracted out our remaining units that we actually sold. So that's how you do it. I'll go over because usually my students have the biggest issue on the math. How do you figure this out? So we started off directly, just to reiterate, is that we start off with 10 units, right? And we know that the question is asking for the end of the month. The periodic inventory count stated that we had 5 units left on hand. Okay, so where did we pull those 5 units? Well, if you're doing LIFO in bulk, which means last in, first out. So the last PO is the first one to leave. So we know that 4 is subtracted, that we must have sold through all of 4 because 4 minus 10 is 6. 6 is still higher than 5. So we know that we have to subtract 1 unit. Where do we get that 1 unit from? Minus 1. It has to come from the next PO, okay? Because that's the way that it would look like. It would look like up here at the top of our bulk item that we sold through all of 4 on the pyramid. And we sold just barely through a 3, just a little bit. And this is all the inventory that we would have left. It would look something like that, okay? And that's what we're counting for. All right. Last but not least, you guys have 2 ratios, so let's get to them. So for inventory, what we look at is we look at inventory turnover and days of inventory. The deal is when we look at days of inventory, we want to know how much inventory we sell through because it gives us an idea of how much of our uplift is. It also gives us an idea for those higher items that we sell more units through. If we need to increase our order quantity. And usually you'll have your sales associate work with a category manager specifically on those figures in order to get them back. So chapter 6 ratios, okay, inventory turnover. Now remember, I give you all of these ratios on your exams, but I want you to be able to remember how to do it. COGS divided by average inventory. Right? And in order to get average inventory, it would be beginning inventory plus ending inventory divided divided by 2. Okay. Days inventory and this is going to equal times days inventory is 365 days divided by inventory turnover. The answer is in days. All right, so let's take a look. So inventory turnover measures how fast the inventory turns over. The more times that it turns over, specifically, the more money that all of the businesses will make. So specifically, we want to know if our sales are matching the units that are being sold. So specifically, we would look at cost of goods sold, right, which came off the Chapter 5 income statement, divided by the average inventory. Now, sometimes you get average inventory, sometimes you don't. In the real world scenario, we don't usually take average inventory. We take actual inventory. That's why periodic inventory counts at the end of the month are so crucial for businesses, especially if they have high-priced items or they have an issue with certain items that tend to go missing a lot more or that get stolen. For instance, cigarettes, baby formula. Certain liquors, specifically high-end liquors, that all need to go through this process. Some companies and some examples that I will give you basically don't give you the average inventory, or it's just going to say inventory number for the month or the year, and you're just going to take that number. Average inventory in some of our cases is whatever the beginning inventory is plus the ending inventory divided by 2, because those are how you take an average. In this case, directly. So you'll have to read the problem to see how that works, but it's very easy to understand. This is a very big, key, crucial tool that sales people and category managers use to review their categories. All right, the next part is days of inventory. I don't think you can see this very well. So days of inventory basically mean you take 365 days, because that's how many days there are in a year, divided by the inventory turnover, which you just got over here, which the answer in inventory turnover is how many times it turns over, right? So in this case, we take 365 days divided by the inventory turnover to figure out how many days that inventory is currently lasting you. So if you were to get an inventory turnover number that's high, and high would be like if you get a number like 65. So it's going to take 65 days to turn over that inventory, right? Does that mean that's fast or that's slow? Well, that kind of depends. If we're talking about apparel specifically, and it's going to be bathing suit time, like here in the state of California, we sell bathing suits year round. We normally don't see a high uplift in sales in January for bathing suits, but you know, I can easily see that the day's inventory of holding on to that stock could take up to 60 days. Now, if you look at 60 days, that's technically 3 months, which for some products, that's actually pretty reasonable, right? Cleaning products, you could have up to a 3-month supply. Most people don't, but, you know, everything's a little different. But you can have a faster inventory turnover, right? You can have a faster inventory turnover where you sell through your entire inventory stock in 2 days, right? Or even seconds. Today we've gotten so quick with technology that we're able to sell through airplane tickets and concert tickets within a matter of minutes. So 350 or 600 tickets could easily go just like that. So it's kind of crazy to see. So we have to monitor our throughput with our days of inventory based upon the product, based upon the promotion and the promotional strategy that is at play. And we also consider new products coming in and old products phasing out. All right, guys, that's chapter 6. Can't wait to see you on Zoom. Bye.